job growth in every major area, in every major industry of the state except for construction. But even in this case, if we look at year to date, construction employment is improving as well. So the housing industry here also growing. This is very good news for our industry in South Carolina. If we look at totals, we can see 0.03% job growth. If we look at percent change year over year, about 0.67% total. And this is the number that we have to watch. This is very positive. It doesn't look like much, but it's much better when we compare it to numbers before 2010, where we saw major losses, as you just saw in the previous total employment graphs, in terms of job loss in South Carolina. But we want it to be stronger. And I want to show you a picture of where we might be going. If we look at total South Carolina employment, this is just looking at total employment now, moving away from the unemployment rate in the labor force. We can actually project a constant rate of job growth to see when we're going to approximate the levels of total employment that we got and that we were at before the recession began. So we have a blue line, which represents total employment to date, and then we have this red line here, which is what we call a naive forecast. It's where you just take a percentage and say, all right, well, if we grow at a constant rate over time, this is what job growth is going to look like and what total employment will be down the road. This is assuming a 2.5% rate of employment growth over the next several years. If that is the case, if that happens to pan out from this point forward, we're going to look at about December of 2012 when we get to the level of total employment that we were at before the recession began. Now, if we consider 0.67%, which is the job growth that we've seen so far this year to date, what's going to happen to that line? It's going to tilt down a little bit, right? So the slope is going to be flatter, and we end up seeing something like this. And to navigate back to that, we're looking at about the fall of 2014. So why do I show you this? Do I think 0.67% job growth is realistic for the next couple of years? Not necessarily. 2.5% is very optimistic. 0.67% is where we are now. It's going to be at some point in between there. So what does that tell us? It says that we're looking at probably between 1 and 3 years, roughly, before we get back to levels of pre-recession employment. So it's going to be a recovery that takes time, but we are moving in the right direction. We're seeing year-over-year job growth, so we know that that we're establishing a long-term trend of job growth. It's just going to take a little bit longer. It's not if, it's when. How long is it going to take?